what their response was, they gave me a response and said that was investigated in 2009, but, you know, I sent that in, that complaint and everything in 2010, so if it was dealt with in 2009, why was he allowed to keep doing that all the way into 2010? You know, and both parties admitted that they exchanged favors and, you know, money went to his racing habit. In return, he gave contracts to them and, you know, this and that. But, you know, something like that, you know, they're still doing things. But there's a lot of other stuff here where policy violations and everything were still going on, and, you know, I ended up being the bad guy in it, I guess. It's retaliation. That stuff's true. It's in black and white. So why was I retaliated against? You know, it's just a big mess. Any questions?
So you filed a grievance, or you had a hearing?
No, I didn't have a hearing. But in reference to that, in the charter and in the personnel rules and handbook, it states that the CEO is the final say. That's the final say in your grievance. Okay, to me, and after speaking to other people, that's like that's at will. You know, the state, they're going to outlaw that from the state, because that at will is, you know, that's a type of discrimination. If you're going to receive federal funds, you cannot discriminate. You know, and since they receive federal funds, and that's in that policy, and that's at will, you know, you can't, that's against the law. And I talked to some people, I did research on the internet, and, you know, that shouldn't happen. I don't know if the charter has to be revisited or some has to be done.
So they don't have a grievance committee that you're
Paul's the final say, right?
And he signed my termination, and he also signed my grievance. That shouldn't happen.
Do we have at will in your policy?
You don't, but if you read it, and since Paul has a final say-so, that's what that leads up to.
Because I know a lot of charters that still have at will employees.
Yeah.
On contract. And so far it's been legal.
That's contracts, but we're
I mean, some of them, you know, like in between a contract between September and May, in between there, they use the at will clause. It is legal to use that in this case. But that's
through the state, right? State chartered. They're all state chartered schools, right?
No, tribal chartered.
Tribal.
Yeah. They're tribal grad schools.
that's probably spelled out in the contract.
Yeah, it's in the policy.
I think that at will is, we have it, it's not in our policy, but it's in our handbook. Yeah.
Which is part of the policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sent that out to a couple of trainers, and one of them sent it back saying that, you know, just like I said, it's a type of discrimination.
But it's not their legal opinion.
It's,
Are they attorneys?
no, they're Yeah. They should all be there. They admitted it, he admitted that they were doing that. But, was allowed to keep going until, end of 2010.
Well, I guess my question is, what is it that you would like this committee to see?
Committee, I would like, there's more than that. There's this, there's also this, there's also this, we're sole sourcing, and there's other vendors that sell the same stuff, and this is to Rosebud, which is in reference to that same thing where they're
Compensated them with the car?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna probably say what I have to say from last administration. Dan, we were privy to all this information last administration, and apparently it was committee's decision not to deal with it. Basically what I saw, because of the status of the charter, and it just seemed like say this, there seems like there's some people that work within the tribal government system that are untouchable, and the status quo and all that. And so I don't really know, what our role in, as far as being the HHS committee, what we can really do with this information, but that's just how I feel. I feel like there are directors out there that are protected, and they're untouchable. It just seems to be the way it is.
It's frustrating because I kind of got mad because I told my wife, I said, if I never brought that up or just turned the other way, maybe I'd still be working. I'll still be working, and, join their group, join their group and be part of that all that fraud that's going on, and, all that stuff. But I didn't want to go that route.
Have you given it thought to have it investigated? So are you at that level?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we should even go there. If it is being investigated. Until they find out it's being investigated.
Because if they're getting federal funds, then they do have to, and I don't know, the details, if they're giving a lot of their purchases to that certain company, then were they the lowest bidder, or how does that work?
It's not.
Was it just favoritism?
It's not always. You don't have to always go with the lowest bidder. It's just, and then preference, of course, plays a part of it, and price, of course, and those type of things. And
But I think if you're taking it to investigating, I think that they would.
The last time we went, we asked about that, and they told us that it would be better to come through HHS. Yeah, they said to go to HHS, and then no, there was another board member. He said just bring it through our committee, and then and then for
housing.
yeah, and then because you guys do housing is under the HHS committee, and so it would be better to come through, because this is what we have here, and the documents that we present, just could be a lawsuit. Because it's, you know, what we see here in black and white is, there's nothing behind that. And that should be questioned here. You know, you guys are HHS, you know, but where's the documents, the attachments to every one of those, you know, his charges, whatever they got him on, and where's the backup to it? There's nothing. And that should be questioned.
Housing said they didn't have to provide
But they do because
documents pertaining to my termination.
Does that say that in the policy? You don't have that in the policy?
Well, I guess the thing that I kind of worry about here, and it always comes back to us, is confidentiality. You know, with each one of these charges that they're charging you with, do we as a committee have that right to?
I think there's limits for what we can do here, because we always do those things and then we get ourselves coming back to bite us so cautiously. That's why I asked you to put it, send it to where you need it to go. Because then if it's already there, I don't see why that, you know, we have to approve of that. I don't see how we have to approve of that.
I think that's just to do oversee housing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it's to the limit of these kinds of issues.
That's okay.
Yeah. Did you get yourselves an attorney?
Yeah,
We're working on
An
it.
attorney could give you a lot of legal advice. Not in a legal capacity.
if it's gonna, see, something like this could evidently hurt housing. I mean, it's something that we don't wanna see. I mean, you know, I talked with Paul when this first happened like that, and I told him that, you know, I'm not here to make you look bad or put housing back in that hole we barely climbed out of. Because at the end of 2006 and first part of 2007, there's a few of us that started working on all those findings. And we started, before Paul was in there, before Paul was put in that position, we started working on that. We got it all going. It started looking good. Paul comes in and, you know, he takes it from there, but with our help and all that. And I told him, that, you know, last thing I want to do is to hurt housing, but these things need to be taken care of, you know, before it gets that far. But I guess he didn't take me seriously, and, you know, and that's what happens when, you know, you try to be honest, you try to be, you know, go by the policies and this and that, and look at all these charges they have on me now. You know, that's outrageous. 18 years I never had a reprimand or anything in my file.
If you got an attorney, to me that would be your strongest. Because you're saying now charges and I can't, you know, it's not my, personally it's not my duty to go in there.
Yeah.
It's like she said, it's a lot of stuff with confidentiality. It'd be more than we can handle. But if you have an attorney, you need their legal advice on what your parameters are.
And I think especially if you think they're violation of federal laws, you know.
There's the OIG right down here.
Yeah.
Go to the OIG.
And then those findings would come to this committee, and then that's when we take a look and try to process the procedures, the violations.
I think this is some that we felt that we wanted to do, you know, for information and, you know, everyone to be aware of what's going on, and just in case some does come up with this, you know.
Because I think, like, it's a concern, you know, this is a concern here, you know, and I think it all needs to be looked at in every corner. And we can't just let it bypass.
And people in Denver, have you guys talked to HUD and stuff like that?
Yeah.
What they say?
Well, we spoke to them before, and I think in a way they felt that it was gonna be corrected in the past, because this didn't only just happened recently. You know, this has probably been going on for some time. You know, and like myself too, you know, when he's done, I can bring my, are you done? Well, myself too, you know, I guess some of my records here, you know, my statements, you know, my paperwork and stuff, I think is really vital. And I, for myself, you know, have been working for housing for, you know, for 6 years. And, you know, couple of years there, you know, I've been in Minneapolis. I've been on you know, medical leave with my niece who has leukemia. So it took me out of the housing for some time. But when I came back, you know, to housing, you know, I didn't know my job was advertised. You know, I worked in the finance department. My supervisor was Christy Becker Hamilton. And when I got back, she was, you know, didn't tell me I had a different position. You know, it took some time there before she even told me I was no longer accounts payable. But this goes way back all the way back to 2000, probably 7 and 8. But I really feel that she's come a long way, you know, into getting rid of me out of my department. And I've worked hard, you know, into that department. You know, I follow policies, procedures. You know, I'm for one, you know, believe in what's right. You know, our money received there, you know, belongs to our people, and we work hard for our people, just like you guys, you know, just circle. And you're here for our people. And, you know, I'm there for our people because, you know, I was taught and I was told, you know, when you're into a position, you're there to represent your people. You know, you're actually a servant to the people that you serve out, even the vendors. And so when I took that up on myself, because, you know, I respect a lot of my people are elderly, you know, because we have a hard time on the reservation, I think. Thank you. And yet they were, you know, they, I guess, in a way, I guess what happened was, I was approached by our employee there, probably, and she told me that, there was things that were going on. There was a person, one of my coworkers was, helping herself to money. And I, you know, didn't really think of it because I never seen her that way, because I worked hard with her. And we found out that she was, you know, giving herself money through purchase orders. And what really concerns me today is, you know, why wasn't that really the fact? You know, why wasn't, you know, I was, you know, right now, I'm no longer in the finance department, because I also got transferred out. And they set me over at the development office as a receptionist. So in a way, they told me I was promoted, you know, but to being out there and becoming a receptionist, you know, to me that was like a demotion. So anyway, you know, I really kind of, you know, was upset about the whole thing myself. I did submit a lot of, you know, copies, you know, to the committee here, but I don't think any of you guys got a copy. I only got my copy. But I had files because, you know, one day, you know, I was all of a sudden given a personnel action and told, you know, I'm transferring your auditor because of conflict of interest. So I made my statements, you know, to her about conflict of interest. Why is it a conflict of interest? And she told me, because you're doing checks for your husband, you're doing mileage, you're doing travel for your husband. So I told her, I said, you know, I said, I've been here for 3, 4, 5, 6 years now, and why am I going to be charged, you know, for conflict of interest? You know, I said, I went to trainings, you know, I gained the knowledge, all that, and I said, you know, and for myself, I said, I understand what I'm doing. You know, we have a system here. You know, we're working on the MIP. You know, we went through probably 3 systems, the 3 techs, the AS400. Now we're into the MIP. And I said, during that time, you know, I said, I had did my job. I said, you know, I don't review and I don't approve anything that comes through our office. I only do the payables that I'm given to do. when Dan, when his information came through, and then all of a sudden I was out because of him, because of me doing that, I said, I've been here since 2005. And you know what, guys, so when I went to that training, that was, as long as I'm not reviewing and approving his paperwork, then I'm okay. That's not a conflict of interest. And so, anyway, she still got me for conflict of interest. So in April, we kind of went back and forth because I was kind of upset, we work hard too, and we try to do what's right. But when I got back in February 1st, my job was advertised. It was advertised back in December 7th. The closing date was 21st of 2009, and I was still in Minneapolis, but I was on my phone. So they advertised my position, and another girl got it, and that girl that got the position, she had cried at certain times because our supervisor, was mistreating her, in a way, always making her cry. And so there were several times that she come to us and come to me crying and telling me, that she didn't want my job, but she had no choice. I didn't get your job, I won't be able to bring, food to my table. I got children, I live in Rushville. And I asked her to make me statements, but she was scared because, she would also be losing her job too. So in April, after so many letters back, back and forth, I was given my letter of transfer. I was transferred out. And so I really felt that, it was wrong for this to happen. So I did an appeal. I was transferred on the 8th, and then so I turned around and I did appeal to Paul on April 11th. And I didn't want to waste any time because I knew what they were doing was wrong. So I appealed to Paul, and I made statements on here to Paul about what was going on, and I followed, everything that I was given. And all of a sudden, when that day she gave me that paper and told me I was going to be transferred out there, she told me, well, John said, John Dunham stated that it is a conflict of interest. And so, and when I did talk to John said he told me that he never said that. He told me that it was only a conversation and a recommendation. And I explained this to Doyle and Jim Weigenlander about this whole thing. But it's been coming a long way, because I knew this is where it was going to end up, because, my supervisor herself told me she embezzled. And that was in 2006. 2006, she told me she embezzled. And so with all this embezzling and all this stuff, and she probably figured, in some way I'm going to be on her side, all this, but it never turned out that way because, I'm an honest person and I won't do anything wrong to anybody. And so during that time, she didn't like it. She didn't like it, and she was kind of getting too personal with myself. And she eventually was, going to weed me out, is what she was thinking. So I was kind of prepared for it because I knew that when she told me that she embezzled and found out that the stepmom that she hired in our department at that time had took purchase orders and added more to those purchase orders. Jim Weigenlander, Paul, everyone knew about it. They all knew what she did. Because when their department brought in purchase orders, she brought it in to make payments on it. But there were certain ones she wanted to pay, and it was like one of them was summation. And she'll take the purchase order that was for $274. She would come and she'll do the check. She said because she wanted to take confirmation. So she was allowed to do that, but yet that $274 turned out to be $2,707. And that's how she got caught when this worker went down there and she was cashing that check. That amount came back where she was concerned because when they were paying her back that money, they were giving her back the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So that same day when she told me, I asked my coworker, the senior accountant, this is what we were told, what we do, because I wasn't at that time not really familiar or didn't know about those things like that, because I was just only there to do my job and didn't know what was coming to me. And so when that day came, he asked me to go into the log, the phone logs, and the, check logs, our book that we have, and see what she did, and go back to the last check she did, is which I did, and I found out that that's what she did. And you know, but this went on because, you know, we seen that there was over, probably close to, when I left then, it was like, she probably did over $15,000. And she was turned over. She was turned over. And all these things about conflict of interest, you know, where was that when she was working with us and her stepdaughter was our supervisor? So we go, there's a lot of things like that that happened, and I have all of it that's documented here. And I think I'm gonna kinda share that because, you know, it went back and forth, and she is really not a good person to work with. Because she's very vindictive.
Excuse me, Jane, can you tell us who, Paul who, and the secretary, the name, the first and the last name, and the person you're talking about for the camera, for the record, if we had to turn back to this video?
No, I don't think she included your name.
It's
I have a question
it's a
for Deb.
severe case.
HR director, is it a conflict of interest for a husband and a wife to work at the same, under the same?
We're in different departments.
I know, but I mean, under the same organization, you know.
The only, I know what, in the tribal organization, you just can't be the supervisor. You could be in the same organization, but you can't supervise each other.
Well, and there was also a form that we signed. It was a disclosure, disclosing that, you know.
I
That's what
never.
Are you still an employee?
Yeah.
Now?
I'm gonna be leaving because I'm getting too much harassment. There's so much things. You know, the whole month of August, you know, I've been picked on. I've been picked on. People have been saying things against me. I even have some written statements, you know, with the employees. You know, that it's just not good because when all this stuff came up with him and then they moved me out of there, they were going to fire me. And you know, those are statements I made, and you know, and I went and I, you know, wrote everything up here, and you know, I just kind of want to let you know because you know, there's so much going on with myself, and you know, it really hurt me because when John Dunham did that audit and passed the audit to each and every one of you guys, you know, in that audit it stated that there was a conflict of interest on cash disbursements to family members on an accounts payable clerk. And that was me. He's talking about me. Because, you know, after I read all this here, it just kind of come back to me. And these are all, I was falsely accused of conflict of interest. You know, I even made that statement to Jim Weigenlander and them, you tell Christy to really find out what she's talking about when she means interest. Because, you know, this is not good. You know, I have a lot of documents to back me up here. And you know what, when he makes that statement, he gave that to you, I was told back about that audit you guys got. And you know, I got a copy of it, and you know what, when he was talking about that, and him and Doyle Pipehead, because when I did my appeal to Paul, and then I didn't hear from them for a long time, then all of a sudden, on April 19th, Doyle and Paul came over and they wanted to talk to me because they were really wanting to know if Christy came over and talked to me about that, because she wrote me up on a reprimand stating that she told me that it was a conflict of interest between me and Dan, and she never did. She never came to me and talked to me about anything. You know, the whole time I worked there, she never talked to me about anything. And then all of a sudden, you know, when I start doing my appeals and responding, then I was getting response back, and you know, and all of a sudden I'm like, geez, you know, what's going on here? He's telling me that he didn't hear what I'm saying because I was accused of doing 14 checks to my husband, 3 for travel and 11 for mileage. And I said, you know, that's not true, because if he makes that statement here, you know, that day I took this letter over there to Paul and gave him my letter of why he hadn't responded to me. Paul wasn't there that day, but Doyle was. And Doyle, how can Paul do the letter that same day and then have it signed? and then give it to me early in the morning. It came over at 8:52 that morning, and it was part of my findings about the grievance and appeal of transfer. But then yet he also listed here in Paul's statement, and I know Paul didn't write this, because he puts on here in 2000 you issued 14 checks to your husband, and you know, Dan Rodriguez 3 for travel and 11 for mileage. That's the same thing that's been said here. And so when Christy wrote to me on this conflict of interest and told me that's why she's gonna transfer me out here, she gave me a document that showed in 2010 of all the checks I was supposedly to write for Dan, and it was supposed to be all 14, but it wasn't. It was only 5, and the rest was written by my other coworkers. So I'm really being accused totally on his finding and his audit report and on their findings, and I think that's this is wrong. It's really wrong, because they want me audited, because I know a lot of things that's going on there. There is stealing, and you know, there's embezzling. What's going to happen with Christy? You know, what's going to happen to her, because it was never investigated. You know, we have John Dunham, our auditor, doing forensic audits. You know, how's that? And he even does our budget. When I was there, I know that those came about. So, you know, in my time here is just like, you know, what do I do? But my next step here is I'm gonna write it all up, because I know what is happening there. And I'm gonna, you know, it's gonna get back to them, and they're probably gonna be really upset and whatever, but you know, I know dates and I know times and I know check numbers. Everything that Dave did wrong. And this is gonna come back, because I really do wish, you know, that I could get a fast attorney to act on this, and we've been having like some of them calling us back and stuff, but we'll keep missing each other. And this is gonna come up. And I think, you know, I'm gonna share this with you, because these are the things that, you know, are coming through, and these are what we're being accused of. But yet they're turning around and they're trying to charge us for all this stuff. We see a lot of things happening in housing. And this is, you know, it's not good. It's not good.
Don't you understand that when I send my paperwork in, okay, Doyle Piping Head signs my paperwork. He reviews it and approves it, he signs it. Okay, and he takes it, gives it to accounts payable. She's in charge of all travel, that includes mileage and so on. So it's given to her. Okay, when the check's made out and everything, it goes back to Doyle. He's a primary check signer, and he has a final signature on it. So he sees it 2 times. So, you know, I don't see why they're saying that's a conflict.
So I guess I'll come back to the question of what this resolution are you seeking from the committee?
I think that, you know, with all this that's going on, I really think that there should be, you know, first of all, I think, you know, what needs to happen is, because, you know, I think a lot of this, you know, that comes through, you know, my ex-supervisor has a lot to do with it. And I think, you know, because she told me that she also had embezzled, and that day she told me that, she was going to tell Paul and myself that she had embezzled, because her and her husband that day got, you know, into a big argument. And he was going to call us, and he was going to tell us that, you know, tell us that what she did. But she paid off her bank loan. She paid off her bank loan with, you know, whatever she took. The housing. And
it was verified as true, because Paul, when we met with Paul verified and said that she paid it all back, but, you know, still, you know, she stole it, and she's still the head of finance. So no telling what else is going on there.
I think we really should refer this to our attorney. Hello? Yes.
Would you be okay with that, if we refer this
Yeah.
And then ask him to review it and then give him
Direction.
direction, yeah.
Because I have, copies and things like that, because, I've never been mistreated in my whole life. I was really happy when, Paul came into the, house and, of all things, Christy was, running him down and, saying things to him, and he was sitting with us and at times, and he even told us, I don't know what I did to her, and so she's put me down like this and all that, and then next thing you know what, something changed. I don't know what it was that changed there, but there was a lot that changed. And all of a sudden, we were being picked on, we were being put out, and it hurts me because, I've worked hard, to get to my position, and I thought I was doing a good job for housing.
And you're still working? We didn't resign yet.
And, I returned my resignation, because I even got documents.
You did, return, did you hand in your resignation?
Yeah, I turned it in because there was so much, although that I'm over there, although that I am over there, I have, I've been still being targeted to get fired. Not long ago, all of a sudden, the whole month of August, there's always something wrong with me, I guess. That's how my supervisor's putting it now. And it just kind of dawns on me about, gee, they don't want me there, they're working on me. But not only that, they called in an employee into the office and told her that, they were gonna, they got rid of Dan, and that, me and him was down there. I guess it was supposedly at the tribal office, and we were, talking about you guys, and I'm talking to you guys about everything, and kind of making, remarks like that about us to her. And she's willing to do a statement. And she said, she's, I hate to say her name right now. And so she went and told me that she said, I guess you guys are, I guess since they fired Dan, they're gonna fire you next and work on you, and told her not to worry about it because she wasn't gonna be fired. And then all of a sudden I also get a phone call. I got a phone call from Kyle. And this lady, she kind of didn't want me to know about what's going on, but she said that Virgil Randall and just Donna Lamont were out in Kyle and were telling everybody out there that I burned the building down. That trailer house that, had all our records and everything. And I said, geez, that was news to me, because I said, I've never seen anything like that. But it's something that, needs to be looked into, because that key was given to one person. And that person was Christy Red Hair. That it went to her, and we don't know what happened after that. And because right before that fire started, she wanted us to get all our files and put our files up there to that building. And so Ruben and Richard Hill, they were the ones that came over, and they took our files. And they took them up there, and they put them, he said, right where we put the files, exactly right in that middle there, he said that's where that fire started. Because we were called up there, so when the feds or whoever it was came and investigated and were questioning us, then we gave them Ruben's name and Rich Hill to tell them what happened, because they couldn't get in that building because that door was locked. So
the feds investigate that fire?
I don't know, they were looking into it because
Yeah, last year they were.
Well, that's something I don't know.
It's kind of like there's kind of, but a lot of this, I have a lot of documents here, and I just wish that I could give them all to you, but you guys are kind of.
And I want to give it back to you. I don't want to leave it on there.
What about, so what, we'll make a motion to refer this complaint to our attorney and have him review it, and then come back and let us know, what direction we should go?
I'll give my sister.
So can we keep one of these for our attorney then?
Is it these ones you want to send?
Yeah, okay, here, I'll get that one.
Jane?
I
Are these the ones you want to send to Brett?
Yeah, I know.
These three?
Yeah, and I think, they were wanting, to get copies of, the personnel policies and, the handbooks, so maybe, you can. Because you know what, it's, what I really think needs to happen, I don't know, maybe he could talk to us or tell us or call us or something, is because, You know, when, I really feel that this attorney and his officer are really involved in that. You know, I just feel like we're dealing here with like a mafia crew that no one wants to break the chain, you know, and I've seen that happen because, you know what, if this person was, was terminated for embezzlement, you know, why wasn't anything done about it? This was way back in 2006, you know, Christy took money and her stepmom took money. You know, so how long has it been? You know, it's come this far and nothing's done about it. All we know is that she paid it back, but she took it. Those are the things that, you know, we need to look at. You know, what is going on here? What is happening here? You know, there needs to be an investigation. You know, a good investigation, because if there's things like that going on, you know, I could write it all up too and maybe give it to him, the attorney.
That investigation shouldn't include John Dunham or Ryan. Those guys, you give them a couple extra bucks, they'll do, or put whatever you want in those records.
Because that's just what they did on me. You know, they wrote it that way, they, you know, accused me of that, the wrongdoing, and then all of a sudden they lied about it, and then I have a document that proves that that's not what was on it. And I said, you know, this is a lawsuit right here. He's going against me on this here, and he's writing something about me that's, you know, false. And I'm sure he's, I found them in 2 days, what to do under county guidelines too. Ethical guidelines. And he shouldn't, you know, be doing all the forensic audits or doing any kind of audits or anything like that. You know, he's only there for one thing.
Was those two bandits from the tribe before, or?
They used to be with the tribe, but I don't know.
Were they blackballed or anything?
Yeah, I think they were, because, he subsequent to that, they were, subsequently were.
I know they
Go
were
back
at
to,
the
I
tribe
think it
for a
was like
while,
in,
and then all of a sudden they.
yeah, she said go back, and I think it was like in